can't talk about Sicilian cuisine without talking about eggplant. The problem is, for some people, it's intimidating to cook. Well, I've got you covered because I have an awesome eggplant recipe in today's video. Welcome to Actually Italian. I'm Sal. I've been living in Italy for years now. I'm really excited to teach you some authentic recipes to help you cook like an Italian yourself. Eggplant is really important to Sicilian and Southern cuisine in general. It's a staple ingredient in the cucina povera, or the poor man's cuisine. But as Italians are known to do, they can take a humble ingredient and turn it into something fit for a king. Today's recipe, pasta alla Norma, is a perfect example of that because we're going to elevate this dish by pairing this eggplant with some ricotta salata. A lot of people outside of Italy are not familiar with ricotta salata. Everybody knows ricotta, the fresh ricotta. In Sicily, ricotta is another really important ingredient because it is so versatile. They also dry it and age it so it can be grated. In some cases, they even bake it, or in this case, smoke it. In this way, when you grate it, it just adds another dimension to whatever pasta you cook with it. You're not likely to find the baked or the smoked version outside of Italy. But what you can get is the salata, the white one. I'm going to link to it in the description box below, so that way you can get some to make this dish. There really is no substitute. You could make this dish without it, but when you pair these together, you're going to understand why this dish is so special. Anyway, let's just jump right in and start making this so you can see what it's all about. For this, I just use a basic tomato and basil sauce. I heat up some sliced garlic in a cold pan. As soon as they start to sizzle and get fragrant, I add that tomato puree, a little bit of water from the container, and some basil. I leave it uncovered and I let it go for about 20 minutes, just to cook off that raw flavor of the tomato. We're not looking for a long cooked sauce here. While the tomato sauce is going, I'm going to work on the eggplant. I have a Sicilian eggplant here, and any eggplant is going to work for this as long as it's fresh. If you have a nice fresh eggplant, you're going to have less chance of it being bitter and the skin being a little too tough. I have a Sicilian eggplant here. It's nice and fresh, but I am still going to take some of the skin off just because I just don't want too much. I'm going to chop this into cubes, but you could slice it any shape that you like. Some people like to salt their eggplant ahead of time before they cook it and then put it in a colander, let all the juices come out because it's bitter. I'm not going to salt mine because, one, I'm using a fresh eggplant. It's not going to be bitter. In fact, it's going to be very sweet. But also salting it like that changes the texture. I'm looking for a nice creamy bite. If I were to salt it, it changes the texture. It makes it a little more dense. Once I have these all cubed up, I'm going to fry them. I'm just going to test the oil by putting a small piece in first. Once you can see that it's frying really aggressively, I know the oil is ready. And I'm using about probably 1.5 inches deep of oil. I've mixed some sunflower oil and some extra virgin olive oil just to kind of lighten it up a little bit, but I still want some of the flavor of that olive oil. I'm going to fry these in small batches because I don't want to cool the oil down too much. If the oil gets cool, you're going to end up with greasy eggplant. While they're frying, you want to kind of move them around a little bit because they're mainly going to fry on one side. So we want to get these pretty consistently cooked all around. Once these are nice and golden brown, they're pretty much done. I'll remove these and I'm going to put these on a cooling rack instead of on a paper towel. This way they drain and it won't get greasy. I also want to salt these as soon as they come out while they're still hot. Some of the eggplant is actually going to get mixed into the sauce and some is going to be more like a garnish over the top. You don't have to fry them. You could actually bake these just by tossing them in some olive oil and salt and put it in your oven. I like to fry it in this case because you get kind of a crust on it and it's able to hold its shape a lot better. When you bake it, it takes a little bit longer and you end up with kind of a mushy eggplant. If you're afraid of frying because of greasy eggplant, then just think about this. If your eggplant is fresh, if you use hot oil and you don't cook it for too long, then you're not going to have greasy eggplant. There are times when I do bake the eggplant. In fact, I'll leave a link in the description below for a video for lazy eggplant parmesan when I do bake my eggplant instead of fry it. Once I have everything finished up and cleared off, I'll put the pot of water on with some salt, get it boiling, and then just toss the pasta in. The choice of pasta is also really important. The classic one that you'll find in Sicily is rigatoni because it has the ridges on it. And that's important because it helps the sauce adhere to the pasta. I would avoid spaghetti or linguine or any long pasta, and I'd also avoid using fresh pasta. This is a dry pasta recipe. Before the pasta finishes up, I'm going to take a saute pan, take some of the sauce that I need, and then I'm going to add some of the cooked eggplant. This is going to give a nice eggplant flavor to the whole sauce. This is also when I want to season the sauce because I didn't put any salt in before. Once I have everything incorporated, it's ready to be tossed with the pasta. So I pull the pasta out about a minute before it's supposed to be done cooking, about a minute before it's al dente, and then I'll toss it in with the sauce to get everything coated and have it really incorporate well with the sauce. I'm also going to reserve a little bit of the pasta cooking water in case I need to loosen it up a little bit. Because once you put the pasta in with the sauce, it can end up thickening it up a little bit, and the pasta water will help to kind of smooth it out. And off the heat, I'm going to add a little bit of grated pecorino. This is optional. This is just to give it another dimension of flavor, give it a little bit more creaminess, and it just kind of adds a little bit more umami to the sauce in general. Now it's ready to be plated up, and I'm going to finish by putting the eggplant on top and some of that grated ricotta. And then it's ready to taste. All right, I've got tomato sauce on my shirt, so we know it's time to eat. Now, I used to live in Sicily, and I used to eat this pasta at least once a week. It was my favorite thing to eat down there. Now that I live up in northern Italy, for whatever reason, I just don't eat it nearly as much, so I need to change that because I really love this pasta. But anyway, I'm going to give it a taste. I'm going to let you know what flavors are going on. All right, everything really is working together perfectly in this dish. That meatiness of the eggplant really pulls it all together. And since I fried it, just that creaminess, that texture is just, it's really great. Then you've got that silkiness from the ricotta that you really just can't get with another cheese. It's really hard to believe that this is peasant food, that cucina povera, because everything just feels like so elevated. The freshness of the basil, the creaminess of the ricotta, the texture of the eggplant, plus that little bit of that meaty flavor. You don't miss the meat, and it just really speaks of what Italian food is all about. I really hope that you make this recipe. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and we'll see you in the next video.